The federal government has pushed the battle to contain the coronavirus to states and communities. Chairman of the Presidential Task Force on the Pandemic, Boss Mustafa, announced this while briefing journalists at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. He said henceforth, the federal government will only provide supervision and coordination on the management of the pandemic. This report has details.
As the second phase of the gradual easing of lockdown comes to an end, there are concerns that Nigeria have reached its peak of community transmission since the last 2 weeks. These concerns were raised by the chairman of the Presidential Task Force, Boss Mustafa, while speaking to State House correspondents in Abuja.
You know, we were in the first phase. We had an extension of 2 weeks for the second phase. For the first phase. The next phase should be the second phase. And along with that, we came in with a lot of recommendations, which we expect Mr. President to consider. But I can assure you about one thing, that the ownership of the next phase will be the responsibility of the states under national supervision and coordination, because we have gone into community transmission. And where are the communities? The communities are in the states. So the ownership of the next phase will be that of the states, the local government, the traditional institution, the religious leaders at the different levels of our communities, because that is where the problem is. Like we've kept saying, 20 local governments out of 774 account for 60% of confirmed cases in Nigeria today. So where are these 20 local governments? They are in communities. It means that we have reached the epitome of community transmission, and we must get the communities involved. There's a likelihood of the increase in transmission in cases, but that should not be a source of despair. Like we've always said, the experts will always tell you that over 80% will contract coronavirus and would not even notice that they have that. And that accounts for what is happening at the isolation centers when you see young men saying that I'm not sick, why am I being kept here? They are asymptomatic. They don't show symptoms. And they will wear it out, or spit it out. There is a 20% that is critical by virtue of certain factors, indices, age, underlying health conditions, and vulnerability. That's the percentage we are trying to protect. And if we don't do something in terms of management, in terms of putting in non-pharmaceutical interventions and guidelines to protect that 20%, about 5% of them can fall critically ill and eventually become fatalities in the numbers. And that's what we are trying to avoid. So everything that we are placing is to ensure that we protect this vulnerable 20%.
Mustafa also told newsmen that the team recommended to the president to allow states to decide on the reopening of schools, businesses and worship centers, which has been shut since March as part of the effort to curb the spread of coronavirus.
A substantial part of the economy was opening up by way of allowing agricultural productions, people that produce fertilizer. The oil and gas industry was never closed for one day. Haulages of oil, refining and prospecting continued. Some financial aspect of the financial sector was open. And after we receive Mr. President's approval tonight or tomorrow morning, we will now know which segment of the economy he has allowed to open. So the issues of places of worship, the issues of schools, the issues of certain businesses that were not open hitherto, part of the packages that we have looked at, and we've made the appropriate recommendations.
According to the PTF chairman, the president also commended all frontline workers who have been at the forefront in the fight against COVID-19 since the outbreak in the country.
He assured us that the nation is fully behind us in the work that he has charged us to do. And he is also appreciative of the work of the frontline workers, particularly the medical personnel, the security personnel, and those that are who are first responders, the people that come in contact with even the patients at the time of collection of samples, the testing, the care that they are given. And we also discussed the issues of compliance. And he said we should continue to appeal to Nigerians and drive home the point that it is a personal responsibility for each and every Nigerian to undertake, to ensure that he keeps himself safe and by extension keeping his family and his loved one and his community safe.
President Muhammadu Buhari is expected to address Nigerians after receiving updates and recommendations from the Presidential Task Force at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. Until his address, there are speculations on whether or not the Nigerian economy will be fully reopened as its total COVID-19 cases surpasses 10,000. Adesha Waldushoga, TV 360, Abuja.